You can simply inform what's happening out there and get a sense of where problems are occurring, right? So water level rises too high, you've got a problem. You flood, you might have to close down a road. You present a human health hazard. You could damage property, you could impact lives. When we talk about something that's out there already intended to positively impact stormwater, you can see how that's performing. Is it doing the job it's intended? Data can be used to not only identify problem areas, but you could also start to try to predict when problems are going to occur.
Hey there, welcome to the Stormwater World podcast. Shout out to our parent company, Digital Stormwater. We're out there making an impact in stormwater one click at a time. We put more stormwater people in front of your stormwater products and services. How we get there is totally up to you. Some of the services that we offer are social media management, Google, LinkedIn, and Meta ads, SEO and content creation, website builds and updates, AI automations, consulting, and a lot more. So the question is, who do you know that needs our help? If you're on YouTube, you can click on that QR code to learn more, or you can give us a call at 844-451-2534, or you can visit us at digitalstormwater.com and schedule a call with us today. I'd like to thank everybody that's been listening to this podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you. Let's get back to the episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of the Stormwater World podcast. Today we are with Dan Penczak. He is from OTT HydroMet, and we are going to be talking about monitoring stormwater control measures. All right. So before we get into all that, let me introduce Dan. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Dan's got over 20 years of capital equipment, product solutions, software, and service sales and engineering within various water industries. His background includes drinking water, wastewater, storm water, and environmental monitoring and weather. Has over 10 years of experience working with instrumentation and water monitoring applications. He joined OTT HydroMet as the Mid-Atlantic Region Territory Manager in November of 2018 and currently holds the field sales lead role for the northern United States. He has a chemical engineering degree from Villanova University, and in his spare time, he enjoys many forms of outdoor athletic activities, including running, hiking, and biking, and really enjoys connecting over music or any outdoor topic. Dan, thank you for taking the time to be with us on the podcast today. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here.
So we are going to talk about monitoring. So let's just start from the 101 basics. Like, why do I want to monitor? How do I monitor? What am I monitoring? So I'll just let you take it from there.
Sure. Yeah. Why do people want to monitor? Generally, they're trying to find out what's happening out there in the natural world, centered around a location or something that they want to keep an eye on. When we look at monitoring, we think of water, of course, for stormwater. We also think of weather, as the two are often interrelated.
Right.
So we're seeing what's changing, what's happening. Usually it's in relation to weather causing a change in the conditions out there.
Gotcha. And so tell me a little bit about so in monitoring. So this is what I know about monitoring a stormwater, right? And so then you can take it from, I know of Infiltracker, right? P4's Infiltracker that works with paved drain, permeable pavement system. And so they're monitoring all of that water. So where are we going from there? What do you guys monitor, or how do you guys approach your monitoring? What types of specific things are we monitoring? How's it look?
Yeah. So when we're talking water, we're looking at water quantity, how much flow, how fast it's moving, what level is it at, or we're looking at the quality of it. So we're looking at a number of different parameters to see what's changing in the quality, sometimes brought on by increasing flow of water, changes the chemistry, sweeps some pollutants in, sweeps them out. So water, and then weather. So weather, rain, other things, quantity, other weather parameters, wind speed. So we can do all of it typically. And when we talk about a stormwater control measure, it can be one focus or other. It could be quantity, quality, or weather, or how they all interrelate.
So So give me some specifics. Like, there's some specific devices that you all offer that, like, what do you guys have that helps with that, right? Because I went on your all's website. I try to like do a little research before these podcasts, and like I was thankful that you gave me like, oh, let's talk about this because you got a very large background and a lot of experience. And then the website is like, you're in the right company, sir, because HydroMet's just got all this stuff, right? And so give me some tangibles of what can I go to the website and find to help me on my next project, or what's your all's newest innovation that you guys have out there?
Sure. Yeah. Starting from the beginning, water level is what we monitor the most. It can be an indication. It can be used to calculate flow. The water level can help you determine how fast it's moving. When we think of water level, we think of, are we getting what we want out of what's out there? We think of flooding, right? So if your water level hits a certain point, you're going to have flooding. We can measure water level in a lot of different ways, and sometimes it depends on the site conditions. Where are we trying to monitor it? Where is it useful to monitor? That'll dictate how we measure level. And sometimes it's customer preference or their ability to work with certain equipment and maintain it. Of course, sometimes it's cost too. So some folks will opt for something simple that's easy to maintain. Other folks will opt for something that's going to give them the most reliable, steady data over time, the highest quality data. So when we think of different ways to monitor water level, there's like a pressure transducer is pretty simple, sits in the water and gives you a water level. There's radar that can be mounted above and look down on some water area to get reflect back and get a water level. There's also another one called a bubbler, which forces a bubble of air out into the water and measures the resistance off of that to give a water level. So there's a lot of different ways to do it when it comes to water level, and a lot of good data you can get out of it.
So what can I do? Like, so what can I do with the data? Like what all can I draw? What all conclusions can I draw for the data? How can I improve my stormwater program or my situation? Or I guess there's a lot of different ways that we can go with this, because from flood mitigation. But if we were just going to stick with like from the compliance aspect of stormwater, like how is it? What can I do there? How can I use that data for my my compliance?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. Show me different ways to answer that question, right? Because you can simply inform what's happening out there and get a sense of where problems are occurring, right? So water level rises too high, you've got a problem. You flood, you might have to close down a road. You present a human health hazard. You could damage property, you could impact lives. When we talk about something that's out there already intended to positively impact stormwater, you can see how that's performing. Is it doing the job it's intended? Data can be used to not only identify problem areas, but you could also start to try to predict when problems are going to occur, right? So if you see historical data will inform future problems. Again, you can see how something is performing. The world out there, we try to put something in place to do a job, and you can see how if it's doing its job.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of these devices. I would assume, like, does every detention pond have something like this installed on it, or should it have something like this installed on it to see the water rising, the levels there, or people using that? Is that a consistent use case? I'm just like I'm looking at the urban flood warning station. I'm creeping your website as we're talking.
Yeah, right. So it depends on what's at stake. If that control measure is put in there for compliance and there's not much risk of it failing or causing a problem, if it's not protecting a sensitive resource, then is monitoring necessary? Not really. You could go out and check periodically, do some monitoring once a quarter, twice a year, something like that. Where you have some critical assets downstream, or you really need to protect a sensitive wetland or something like that, then you need continuous monitoring in place. You might even need to take it one step further and have alarms tied into this, right? So if you go above a certain water level and you might flood out a downstream property, then you might want an alarm so they're aware. We've had folks that want to have advanced warning to close roads, to shut down critical assets in an electrical substation. You name it, if there's a critical asset downstream, you need to have warning. in place.
And then the data collection, is this in real time? Like, do you guys have dashboards and stuff? Is it sending the data? Is it something I have to go collect off of a thumb? I have to go connect something to that device and then pull the data down? Or is it actually sending it? Or do you have the option depending on what your needs are?
Yeah, it's all of the above, right? We've tried to make ourselves be able to provide all of those solutions because everybody has different needs. In the simplest, there's a sensor out there and there's something collecting the data, and you go out periodically and you get it maybe for a long-term study, and you take a look at it, you analyze it. In the more critical applications, it's tied into a data logger, which is sending the data somewhere to somebody or multiple places via telemetry, cellular or satellite. And people are taking immediate action, or they're getting warned, or it's the information in flood warning gets passed along to the Department of Emergency Management somewhere. First alert responders can blast out a message saying, hey, stay away from this road, it's closed.
Where do you guys see, like, where do you see most of your sales as far as in terms of stormwater then? Like, since there's so many different use cases, do you see, is it all over the place, or is there a heavy use case for, this situation, this type of control?
So the majority of what we do is streams. We do a lot with the federal government and dams and things like that, where they're monitoring critical assets. But then urban flood warning has become more and more of a hot topic as the amount of rain and the impervious surface increases, the flooding's increasing. More communities are trying to take a proactive response to that and put in monitoring in place to protect and warn and avoid damage and trouble.
I see a lot of companies working on like smart ponds and stuff like that. Are you seeing a lot of reach out to you all to add on your monitoring capabilities to some of these smart devices, or are they doing their own thing and not? I think you guys have been around for a long time. You're
over 150 years.
Yeah. So I would, rather than recreate the wheel, if I were building something, I would just reach to you guys and be like, hey, can you do this part of it? Right? Are you seeing any of that in the smart world? Like reaching out? And I think you're all's, between the devices themselves, the data, the dashboard, the software capability, I would assume that's running in the background as well. Are they reaching out? Are you seeing a push toward that? Or
we are seeing more and more of what I'd call adaptive stormwater control, and folks reaching us out to us for the sensors, for the data logger, for any programming that might come into that, and then they're tying it into sometimes control structures, control valves, and things that might be part of their proprietary algorithms. We don't do anything proprietary with the data loggers, but we have the ability within any monitoring solution that we provide to do just about anything in that sort of stormwater monitoring and control world.
If I had a project, like, is there assistance on the website, or just call you guys, or like you just deal with you guys directly? Like do you guys help with design and stuff like that? Do you have some support on that side of things?
Yeah, so there's certain things we can and can't do well. There are consulting engineers of the world that might help with permitting and certain things. What we can do typically is take a look at a site, recommend a location for an instrument, help guide people as to what might be the best way to monitor, alert, and alarm based on their needs. We have to have an understanding of their needs, and then we can provide a solution. In certain times, we can be the whole solution. Other times, there's a consulting engineer that might partner with us or partner with a municipality and utilize us to deliver a complete solution to the municipal customer.
So what's an ideal like monitoring station look like?
Yeah, so and it'll depend on what you're trying to accomplish, but an ideal, we'll give you a flood warning, for instance. An ideal monitoring station would have a stormwater, a level sensor of some form or another, tied into a data logger. That's the brains of the operation, which ultimately can gather data however you want and send it onward along with alerts or alarms. Now, that's the simplest. We see a lot these days where they're bringing in a weather, maybe an all-in-one smart weather sensor, such as we have from Luft, our Luft brand. Sometimes we're seeing cameras brought in, right?
Okay.
Because it really helps to be able to trust your data, but it's nice to be able to see what's happening at my site. There's a lot of reasons. backs up what you're seeing with the data, tells you if you have a problem, trees falling over the river, or a bunch of debris is built up after a storm, or even tells you when, the storm has receded,
Right.
in addition to data.
Are you guys
So,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, that's what I was going to say. That's what an ideal station looks like.
So can you add, like, are you guys also have the ability, I don't even know if this is a thing, to monitor in stream, like monitor the water itself, like not just the level, but like stuff in the water? I know it's weird. I've always
Yeah.
had a weird feeling about that. Like, you go and you take a sample, it's like a snapshot. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like, do you guys do
Yeah.
like continuous in-stream monitoring for different conditions?
Yeah, we do. I've talked mostly about level so far, but the
Mm-hmm.
other major aspect of a lot of what we do is water quality.
Okay.
So you want to see how that changes over time. A lot of people want to do studies there,
Mm-hmm.
pH, turbidity, conductivity, which is linked to salinity, dissolved oxygen. Those things all change. Those are the basic 4 parameters that are typically monitored continuously in water quality. And there's a whole host of others like nitrate that people are being concerned with depending on the location of where you're trying to monitor.
Are you guys doing anything in now that seems like the forever chemicals, the PFAs, and the microplastics, and it's like every other headline, or maybe that's just because that's the stuff I looked at. So I get fed more of that stuff in my different feeds, but it sure seems like it's all over the place. Are you guys doing anything with that stuff?
Yeah, there's so many emerging harmful contaminants. The PFAS has gotten a lot of headlines. I don't know if that's something that's able to be continuously monitored at this point in time, but no, we don't really have a sensor or a way to monitor that continuously along with the other parameters typically monitored.
What would you tell, like, outside of the flood mitigation standpoint, but just for stormwater, I guess I don't know if we want to talk at a municipal level, but like, do you have tips or thoughts on just monitoring for somebody that's running a stormwater program?
I would say that you want to be intentional about what you're trying to achieve and where you're trying to achieve it, and think through some of the options that are there, because there's a whole host of different sensor options. And there's a lot of, I would call it, not trial and error, because I don't think you can really go wrong, but let's call it refinement in, okay, where do I want to put equipment? How often do I want to gather data? At what condition or conditions do I want to set an alarm? We've had folks try it out in one location and then maybe add a few other stations to other locations that they see as potentially problematic. So that's the way to go about it.
Yeah, because if you've talked to the city, nobody's got any budget, right? Like, everybody, there's zero budget. So these devices, they look like you could take them out. You could just put them where you want them, and they've got a very small footprint, and then take them out, put them somewhere else. So you could really test your way through, because you already mentioned, like, obviously critical infrastructure, things that are downstream, you would want to avoid from a flood standpoint. But I'm just also just thinking about just issues that come up within a stormwater program. And man, it'd be nice you can't always be standing there. So it'd be nice to have that extra arm or set of eyes or that device, right, that could tell you what's going on while you're not there.
Yeah, you could move things around easily enough. Yeah, I think the nice thing about it is, while these solutions are pretty robust, they are scientific grade.
So don't just grab it up, throw it in the back of your truck. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm leaning toward that they are stuff the federal government uses for monitoring all the streams of the United States. There's a standard station, flood warning station, and a lot of different options that have now been made off the shelf and affordable, so that folks don't have to invest tens of thousands of dollars to put up a flood warning station. So that's really been the evolution over the last couple of years, where it's been made, while still high quality, very affordable to the average municipality that is strapped for budget.
Oh yeah, I see what you're going with that. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I'm still creeping your website as we're talking, and just trying to understand all the different things that you guys could do and what can be done in general for monitoring, as well as specifically with what you're all bring to the table. But it's just, to me, it's super interesting. I'm not fighting a budget, right? Because if it were me, I'd have stuff all over the place if I was running a program. Like, I'd want to know everything. But right? But then again, we got cameras at our house, and we got cameras everywhere on the property, right? And so if I were running a stormwater program, there'd be these little solar panels everywhere. So,
and some of the communities will pick just the one hot spot that's causing the most trouble, that's flooding and closing a road that folks are trying to drive through
oh
in
no,
storm,
yeah,
and they'll attack that. They'll put up warning, they'll put up a road closing sign, something like that. You could do all of that. And other communities do have the budget to blanket their entire city and tie it into some software that the public can view and the town can view and the emergency management can view. They could take it a step further and do some QA QC of water quality data if they're measuring that. So there's a whole range.
I'm just looking at some of these sensors, these in-stream sensors. I'm going back to the water quality versus just the levels, and trying to just wrapping my brain around some of these different sensors, just to see.
There's a lot of, you think about winter stormwater, right? What does winter stormwater in the northern part of the U.S. typically bring into the streams?
Yeah, salt. Yeah, a lot of it.
So the simplest in-stream water quality measurement would be conductivity for salinity, and they're really starting to take a look at that these days. What's carrying into the streams? Is it having a harmful effect, or what's the extent of the harmful effect? So that's one simple one folks are doing.
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. And then rental loaner package, where would it be a use case where somebody would just temporarily, I guess there's probably a million use cases, but off the top of your head, like what's a good example for somebody where they don't need it forever?
Yeah, I'll give you an example because it gets me. I'm New Jersey based. I can put in a little plug for Northwestern New Jersey, where we have a lot of lakes. Gentleman requests a rental of a water quality sampling or monitoring piece of equipment once a week, or for 1 week, like 3 times a summer. So you can go out and check the quality of the lake. It's a more short-term rental situation. We've had consulting engineers rent for the duration of one of their projects, as long as a year or two, because they don't want to own equipment because they don't need it after that time period. So there's always a sort of range of examples where a rental might come into play.
So are all these devices pretty straightforward, or do you guys provide training with them, or is it like pretty plug and play, or how does installation, and then how do we go from, man, this is pretty cool and shiny and I want to do this, to, oh, this is useful and I understand how to use it? Is it very difficult at all?
Yeah, and again, that's a complex question because while we do provide training, we expect a lot of our devices to be able to be easy enough, intuitive enough to use that the average, say, middle school person can use and pick up on.
So you're telling me I got a chance, Dan. Thanks. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good.
Well, that's the idea. So, but we do offer training, and I think what most continuous form and maybe our best form of training is the ongoing technical support folks that are there with the equipment in front of them that can answer those questions and really make the customers feel at ease and guide them through a lot of what they're seeing out there in the field. So we receive a lot of rave reviews for those folks that get that job done.
Nice. What have we missed on monitoring? What do we not cover? What are some thoughts that you have that we haven't touched on as far as the monitoring world goes?
Yeah, and I don't know off the top of my head. I think there's water level, water quality, a whole host of different weather parameters, even solar radiation. Sometimes folks like to take a look at.
Wait, I know this is a stormwater podcast, but you're going to have to tell me what's solar radiation. Like, I don't even know that term. So go ahead, and what is that?
Yeah, so you can monitor basically what a site is seeing in terms of the strength of the sun,
just the amount of UV it's getting during the course of the day, is like the way.
Yeah, there's a lot of different options. Again, we don't typically see it in our flood warning and stormwater world, but depending on who's trying to do the monitoring, they might also want to gather some of that critical radiation data of what sun they're seeing, how much, what is the quality of it. Solar farms, of course, is one that use it, but a lot of academic research also incorporates, or weather data also incorporates solar monitoring. So it's another thing that we do.
I don't want to get too far off the rails. You guys do a lot of stuff. Although I did just see that there's a flood warning system in Harris County, which is right in my backyard. I live in Orange, Texas. I'm a rock's throw from Houston. In terms of Texas, I'm a rock's throw. I'm 2 hours away from Houston. So you got I guess you guys put in this flood warning system a long time ago. So you guys have been around forever, it looks like.
Yeah, that's another example of something that started out on a little bit smaller scale where they put in a couple of locations, liked what they were getting. Unfortunately, continued to have some of the hurricanes and the flooding and needed to expand that network over time and incorporate more and more to it. We aren't responsible for every part of that network. It's a nice collaboration of some different things, but we do have a nice chunk of equipment in there that is helping to maybe mitigate is not the right word, but lessen the impact of some of those storms and floods that come through.
I got you. Everybody listening to this podcast knows that, or they should know at this point, that I'm a tech nerd. I love all things if it's got electricity flowing through it, basically. And so I find it fascinating. I think everything should be monitored. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing what you guys do, some capabilities. What's the best way for somebody, if they had questions or needed additional information, what's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I think my email and phone number are available out there on our website somewhere. LinkedIn is another good way.
Go to LinkedIn, guys. Dan Penczak, you can find him, search him up. I just don't feel like there's a lot of Dan Penczaks on LinkedIn. Don't go to like that website. There's a lot of stuff. So,
and certainly my email, dan.penczak@hydromet.com. If you can get all that right, including spelling my name, you can find it easily.
Oh, no, we're going to put it in the show notes, folks. And then I think pre-call, you mentioned that you actually have a presentation built around this. Yeah. So if you're willing to share that, we'll put that in the show notes for everybody. If you guys want to see some visuals along with what Dan had to share with us today. And then, I think we covered all of our bases there. What are there any final parting thoughts for the stormwater world that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I know we mentioned Stormwater Professionals Group on LinkedIn, which was created a long time ago. Yes. Has a good number of members, I think well over 7,000 out there. So good place for folks to connect out there in the industry, connect with me, Ty.
Yep. We'll get in that thing. Yeah. So Dan created that a long time ago. And so there's a lot of folks in there. And so, so check it out on LinkedIn. If you go to LinkedIn, for those of you who don't know how to do this, and you just go and you search #stormwater, and then you go to groups, that'll be the first group that pops up. It's called Stormwater Professionals, and you can just join it. And we'll link that in the show notes as well. Dan, it's been a pleasure today. I learned a lot. I feel like this episode may be more for me than anybody else because I all my questions and whatnot and cruising through your website. But I really do appreciate you being willing to come take the time with us.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate all the questions and conversation. Thank you.